Here's a small route planning example that I put together using Virtual Earth and the Simplovation Web.Maps.VE version 1.0 mapping component. This small route example just allows you to plot as many points as you would like for each increment of your route that you want to plot. Rather than just point to point, you can do multi-point. In this example, if I hold down the Control key and then left click, it'll plot a push pin. So I'll just plot a couple of them here. It displays them, the locations of them, on the right of the map, latitude and longitude. And if I click the Get Directions button, it'll actually load the route on the map and show the driving directions for it below the map, with the total distance of the route and the total estimated time the route will take, along with the distance and time each increment of the route will take. Now if I clear the directions here, the Clear Directions button, I can click and drag the push pins around to change the route that I want. Click Get Directions and it'll load directions with the new push pins. Another thing with this example is you can right click on a push pin and it'll remove it from the list. And you can also add as many push pins as you want along the way to define the direction that you want the route to be. So you can get as granular as you would like in your route that you want to get the driving directions for and the estimated distance and time. And all the points plotted are displayed on the right of the map. So now I have 9 push pins plotted. I'll get directions and it'll load the driving directions for the route exactly where I wanted it to be, with the directions below. This is a pretty neat example, something I've wanted to build for a while but never ended up getting around to it, and you actually couldn't do it until Virtual Earth version 6 came out last October, because previous versions of Virtual Earth did not support multi-point routing. Another small thing on the map here you'll notice is this little mini map in the top right corner. That is being displayed using a small extender control that comes with the Web.Maps.VE component. Now I'll go over the code that makes this work. So let's go into Visual Studio. Now I have my default.aspx page here with my register directives to include the map and the map extenders in the page. And if we go down, we have our script manager. And we need a script manager because we're using ASP.NET Ajax. And then we have our map defined in the page with the width and height set. And we have that mini map extender added onto the page, set to add the mini map to the map in its default location for the extender, which is the top right corner of the map. And the target control ID is set to main map, which is the ID of the map on the page, which attaches the extender to the map. And then we have an update panel with a repeater in it, where we will display the latitude longitude coordinates of each of the push pins that we plot on the map. And then below we have our Clear All Shapes button, another update panel that links the Get Directions and Clear Directions buttons up to cause an asynchronous postback, so we don't have a complete refresh of the page. And then down below the map we have an update panel with a couple labels for distance and time of the route that's plotted, and a repeater that'll display each increment of the route once it's loaded. And that's all the markup for the page. Now if we go to the source, we'll see when the page loads, we are checking if we're in an asynchronous postback. If we are, we're going to execute the display points plotted method. If we go down to display points plotted, the display points plotted method just binds our repeater in our page that's on the right side of the map that displays which points are plotted on the map. So each time there's an asynchronous postback, that list is updated with the latest list of push pins that are plotted on the map. Now if we go back up to the top of the code here, we have our on-click event being handled for our main map on the page. The first thing we do in the on-click event is we're checking if the left mouse button is clicked. If they click the left mouse button, then we check if control was held down. If the control key was held down and the left mouse button was clicked, then we know we want to add a shape to the map. So then we check if they've already clicked on a shape. If the user's clicking on an existing shape, we don't want to do anything. So now that we've determined we want to add a shape to the map, we create a new instance of the shape object, passing it in the latitude-longitude coordinate that was clicked on the map. And then we set the title and description of the shape to some value. In this case, it's just a number to number the push pins in the order that they'll be plotted on the route. And then we add our new shape to the shapes collection of the map. Now, once the asynchronous postback is complete and the shape has been added to the map, the end result that gets rendered in the page is the shape being pushed down to the client automatically and plotted on the map without you having to write any JavaScript code. Now when the user right clicks on the map on-click event fires, and the first part goes true because we didn't click the left mouse button, but then the second part, where we check if the right mouse button was clicked, goes in here, and then we check if they right clicked on a push pin. That's when we want to remove the push pin. So then we go in here and we just remove the push pin that was, or the shape that was clicked, from the map's shapes collection. And that's all that's needed to remove the shape from the map, since we have a reference to the shape that was clicked from the on-click event. Then we execute the reset shape sort order method, which just changes the numberings of the push pins to be displayed on the map. So if we right click on push pin number 3, it renumbers 4 and above to 3, 4, and so on, so that we don't have any missing numbers in display. And then finally at the end of the on-click event, we just execute the display points plotted method again, just to make sure that the points are being displayed on the right side of the map. So then now, once we have all our shapes plotted on the map, we click the Get Directions button. The on-click event of the Get Directions button sets a loading directions message is displayed beneath the map. And then it gets a collection of all the shapes that are added to the map using a generic list collection. And we pass those latitude, longitude coordinates of those shapes to the map's Get Directions method, which just basically, when the asynchronous postback is complete, tells Virtual Earth, these are the points that I want to plot a route for, so go plot that. And once Virtual Earth has completed plotting the route, it raises an event that the route is completed, which causes the Web.Maps.VE component to raise the directions loaded event up to the server using an asynchronous postback. And then we get into the main map directions loaded event handler, where we go through the route, we find the max distance of the whole route, display it in a label, the max time for the route, and display it in a label. And then we bind our collection of route legs, which is each increment of the route, to our directions repeater that's displayed beneath the map, which will actually display the full driving directions for the route being plotted. And that's the main part of this example. It's actually, if we look through here, it's actually not a lot of code. Overall, this whole example is 150 lines of server-side code, which isn't all that much, especially since we're utilizing repeater controls and data binding. Now there's another thing in this example that I showed, is being able to click and drag the push pins around. If I scroll down to the bottom of the default.aspx page, we have our JS main map loaded method, which attaches some event handlers of our own using JavaScript to the mouse move, mouse down, and mouse up map events, so we know so we can handle the events when the mouse is being hovered over and clicked on and dragged on the map. And this JS main map loaded method is actually being called by the Web.Maps.VE component. If we scroll up to the top here, we have our onClient map loaded property, which is being set to JS main map loaded, which tells Web.Maps.VE that to call this JavaScript method once the map is finished being loaded on the page. So now once we have our mouse events attached, we can use the mouse move, mouse down, and mouse up mouse events to handle the dragging of the push pins. When the mouse is down, we check if it's the left mouse button is being held down and a push pin is underneath the mouse at that time. If it is, we get the shape with that ID that was passed in from the event handler, and then we get an instance of the VE map object within the page, and in the VE map control object property of the VE map, we execute the enable geocommunity method, which basically allows us to be able to drag a push pin on the map dynamically. And we set a little Boolean flag telling us that we're in dragging mode, so isDragging equals true. And then on the mouse move event, we check if we're in dragging mode, isDragging equal true. If it is, we get the current location in latitude longitude of where the map is, or where the cursor is relative to the map on the screen, and then we just set the shape's point to be that location where the cursor is hovering over. So as you drag the map or drag the mouse around, it'll move the shape. And then in the mouse up event, when we let go of the push pin, when the mouse button is let go, we check, are we in dragging mode, is dragging equal to true, and is left mouse button, did we let go of the left mouse button. If those are both true, we set is dragging equal to false to signify that we're not in dragging mode anymore, and then we get a reference of the VE map object within the page for the instance of the Web.Maps.VE control, and we execute the enable geocommunity method and pass in false to signify that we're done, basically done needing to drag push pin around. But altogether, it's actually only a small amount of JavaScript code needed to enable the drag and drop of push pins in this example. As you can see, the rest of the code is all either server-side code or just markup in the page defining where stuff is. So it's a fairly simple example that demonstrates some pretty neat functionality that really isn't used in a lot of sites and just basically couldn't really be done before.